Hello everyone, welcome back to theCUBE. I'm John Furrier, your host, here in New York City at our NYSE East Coast studios, part of the NYSE Wired program, Brian Bauman. Of course, theCUBE has the Silicon Valley connecting tech and Wall Street, money and entrepreneurs all together. The Crypto Trailblazers series continues. We have all the pioneers coming in, people who are making it happen, contributors, coders, executives, everyone who's participating in this next wave is super valuable. They are the Trailblazers. The next Trailblazer up is Winston Ma, partner at Dragon Global. He was former head and managing director of China Investment Corporation, second largest sovereign fund ever. So
yes.
Thanks for coming on. Good to see you again, CUBE alumni.
Yes.
Great to see you.
Thank you, John.
Smiling as always. Great to have you on. For two reasons. One is, you're very relevant to this conversation in a lot of areas. The last time you were on with the AI infrastructure side, but you wrote a book, you got it right there. Can I see? Can I see that? Yeah, yes. I'll put it up there. He wrote a book on blockchain and Web3.
Yes.
I skimmed it, it's legit.
Yes.
But more importantly, you also have a front row seat to money.
Yes.
You've had a position at your other job, you've also been a lawyer, you know there's regulatory policy things, so we're at the nexus of certainly a better environment, not hostile like in the US, from before in the Biden administration, but under Trump it's happening. Yep. So you have the confluence of money and capitalism coming together. So this has been a big part of the conversation, so now that's there. So secondly, you've been traveling a lot around. I've been covering all of your endeavors on LinkedIn, and Facebook, Davos, Miami, so you had a lot of embedded positions for primary data. What are you finding? Let's get to the primary data. Let's pull out the reporter notebook. What have you discovered? What's your observation happening in the tech and money scene right now?
Interesting question. So let's put, let's say three very big trends here, right? Number one, since I'm a sovereign fund person, recently a managing director at a sovereign fund for global investing, and now NYU School of Law professor on sovereign funds, plus the program director on the forum of global sovereign funds, right? The first is so sovereign funds become increasingly the leading tech investors in the world. I had another book called The Hunt for Unicorns, how sovereign funds changed the investment in the digital economy. Because they are the largest VCs, right? They have $500 billion or even a $1 trillion plus portfolio for each of them, right? So their investment can move the market, and that's certainly relevant to the crypto asset class as well. So that's the first one. And then the second part is we see more regulations development. On one part, we see more and more cross-border regulations for traditional transactions, right? At the same time, we actually see more loosening of regulations in the crypto market, and this leads to interesting dynamics. When large investors, trillion-dollar allocators, think about how they move money between different asset classes, right? That's the second, the regulatory aspect. And then the third aspect is sort of this global thing. It's quite obvious that globally we just see more tension, right? We see more deglobalization, and in this context, actually, the crypto, the decentralized web, it becomes relevant because it is, in theory,
it's free. It's for everyone.
It's a free for everyone and free of borders.
Yeah,
right?
and what's interesting too, stablecoin has been a big part of that conversation.
Yes.
Obviously, decentralization. The apps are going. We've interviewed a lot of the folks from Ethereum. We had the head of engineering Solana on. So you got speed. You got layer 2 and roll-ups with Ethereum. So you're seeing. A lot of money on chain in the form of dollars, and whether it's stablecoin and or other assets. But Ethereum, David, a lot of time we were talking on the CUBE pod this week about it. It's like the price hasn't changed on Ether, but the usage is up, right?
Yes.
So that's a signal. That's telling me that there's development happening.
And also Solana,
Solana is just crushing it right now. Speed there, they're doing great on performance. Ethereum's catching up. But they're higher value transactions. But for the everyday person, Solana's great. So you got this infrastructure wave. Okay, we covered this with AI infrastructure. Again, things are rhyming. Now you're starting to see the bigger exchanges come in, and so you're going to have Bitcoin as a store of value. You got Solana, and you got these stable coins. The mobile phone intermediaries don't have to be there, but yet institutions are integrating in. So kind of interesting. I want you to tell me your opinion on how this squares, because is it going to be the infrastructure that dictates to the institutionals what to do? Because the integrations will probably work well, Winston, but it may not work well at the beginning, maybe not. So you know, it's always the organ transplant may not take kind of thing. But like, what's your view on this? Because I don't see they're conflicting when you have old school, new school coming together.
Great point.
And then bottoms up just new everything.
Yes, no, a great point. You have a lot out there, but you know, if we organize it, right, so I think essentially infrastructure and ecosystem truly would be the key words for Web3 going forward. So first, as you mentioned, right, Bitcoin is more like commodities, more like storage of value. And interestingly, in this context, even Trump and Gensler can agree, right, because Gensler viewed Bitcoin different, so it allowed Bitcoin to have the ETF futures first. And Trump, even though he dislikes the Gensler, but when he announced the strategic national reserve, right, he also singles out the Bitcoin different from others, right? So Bitcoin, you know, is a commodity, is a tradable asset, is a storage of value. We can all see that, and but it's different from the infrastructure and ecosystem because we need the users to create a vibrant ecosystem, right? So that leads to the second aspect, which is why we see all the development on Ethereum, Solana, and others, and you touched on mobile applications. That's so important because traditionally, if we think about how mobile internet gets billions of users, right? It's through applications. It's through user participation. So for example, YouTube, Twitter, users do not sit there idle, right? Yeah. They want to be part of it, and they contribute contents and even interact with the content, and that's what we need for the Web3 ecosystem as well. Yeah. And now we see more activities on Ethereum and Solana and a similar platform. Yeah. That's the right direction.
There's more wireless everywhere, right? Yep. I don't need if I have an application that can transfer Bitcoin or stable coin pegged against the dollar or whatever asset, that's legit. That's just instant.
Correct.
I could be in any country. So you talk about borderless. This is a solution.
Yes. Yeah, so the interface, right, really would make a huge change for the retail general population's participation into the Web3. Because right now it's still a niche market. Yeah. People think, you know, the compliance is different, the sign up is complicated, and it's very hard to get the money back, things like that, right? You know, because it's illiquid, right?
Well, so there's risk.
Yeah,
going through intermediaries, you got risks.
Yes, yeah.
Time.
But if it can be as friendly a interface as a normal mobile application, like a YouTube watch a video or TikTok post a goofy short video, stuff like that, right? Then people will participate, right? But now it goes to the last point. You know, you talk about institution, right? All these are great for retail communication, but for the institution one, they really want to see a highly sophisticated, you know, well-developed infrastructure that are fully in compliance with the existing legal framework, right? So for them, interface will be good, but the regulatory is more important.
So I love covering these targeted series because one, I love them, so I love talking about it. I nerd out on one level, and then the business side of my brain kicks in, and I want to get to the entrepreneurship in a second, but every kind of concept or community has buzzwords and, you know, things that jump out and are repeated over and over again from the leaders. Here in crypto, so a couple ones I'll throw at you and I want you to react to. Payment rails. You hear a lot about payment rails. Token economics. Tokens, not in an NVIDIA way. Because they use tokens.
Exactly.
Right? So not to be confused with tokens. Again, tokens is a popular word. And it's multiple meanings. So tokens can measure that user. Okay, and put value on this. Now you have that interaction you mentioned. So, okay, payment rails. I'll throw scale in there too, because scalability, operating at scale, whether it's volume or just scalable infrastructure. So, payment rails, token economics, tokens, and then infrastructure, or just scale.
Exactly, yeah. I would say
react to that, and why is that important in today's world? Why are those words coming out?
Yes, the payments, the payment rail and the scale are, you can view them as closely connected. Why? Because since we're talking about money and asset anyway, right? So clearly people need to think about their value, but also the liquidity. Meaning, you may have the storage of value in one crypto token, but can you get the money out easily? Make the transition between crypto assets and the fiat currency. Like just normal money,
get some
right?
Cash.
Easily, right? As easy, right? So if you have a smooth payment rail, then you can have the scale more easily, right? So that's the first layer of thinking. But the most sophisticated layer of thinking is like the going forward, like into the commerce on the commerce in Web3, right? The commerce based on crypto, meaning in any ecosystem, right? You may have lots of interaction, you may have lots of advertisement even, but if you don't have a payment system, you cannot turn these interests and activities into a transaction. That's why, for example, WeChat, right?
Yeah.
Or even it's WeChat, of Tencent in China. Or even it's
theCUBE's big, by the way, over in China.
Yeah.
SiliconANGLE and theCUBE on WeChat.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
There are people translating our videos and articles.
I see.
All your WeChat users out there, take a look at SiliconANGLE and theCUBE.
Exactly. Now, if you look at that, right, WeChat started without a payment system. So it was started as like today's WhatsApp.
Yeah.
So people just message each other and chatting, posted multimedia, very convenient to share contents, right? And then gradually merchandise say, oh, this is so popular, we should share our merchandise information. And then of course people show the interest, but without payment system, people cannot transact easily, right? So when you have a payment rail there, that means all the interactions and the activities can be translated into real transaction, right? And then that can help scale as well, right? Yeah. So that's a reaction to those two, and then another one is token economics, right?
Yeah, token economics and tokens.
Exactly. So here. Token in Web3 obviously is different from the AI model tokens. Because the AI model tokens are just text, or even in the context of multimodal, let's say just information.
It's math.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, just codes, right? So it itself does not have value, but the crypto token means
it's intrinsic value of a network or thing.
Exactly.
Like in gaming, everyone knows in gaming.
Exactly.
Skins and
we call them game tokens.
Game tokens,
Right. So essentially,
So tokens are critical.
Yes. Yeah. The tokens, you can think of it almost as an equivalent term for crypto assets, right? Assets that's cryptalized, right? Yeah. And in the game, as you said, you can have gaming tokens, and in e-commerce ecosystem, you can have these trade tokens. And again, back to WeChat, Tencent, right? Many years ago, they started a QQ token for their gaming, like because it starts as a gaming company today. Obviously, it's the largest gaming company in the world, right? Tencent has the biggest titles like Game of the Thrones type of stuff, right? So to manage that ecosystem, actually they come up with gaming tokens, but because of the Chinese crypto regulation, right, they cannot make it crypto based, but it is a token for a ecosystem, right? And here in a blockchain Web3 context, tokens are chain native. That means it was generated naturally when you have activities on the crypto.
I love that. I love the word chain native, because that really drives that. Okay, so that brings me back to full circle to you, money.
Yes.
You've managed a big money, trillions of dollars. You're now in a family office, still have big money. You kind of took a step down, Winston, from the big dog position. No, I'm only kidding. You're doing a lot of great work, just kidding. But entrepreneurship is happening.
Yes.
Okay, investments are being made. You mentioned that at the beginning of the interview.
Yes.
What is the current situation on marketplace look like for investments? Or
yes.
What are the sovereign funds and the big offices doing?
Yeah.
How are they deploying their capital? Are they looking at crypto from an arbitrage standpoint, or hold and store of value?
Yes.
What kind of ventures are they investing in? How are they investing? Are they investing in, token native deals?
Yeah.
Are they using stable coins or just using classic methods like preferred stock? How are investors moving the money?
Yep.
Similar to venture capital? Can you share your vision around what you're seeing with the deployment of capital?
It's a wider spectrum. It's a wider spectrum.
What's the current state of the art?
Yeah, so I think, you touched both the family office and the sovereign funds, right? In a way that represents, in a way they invest similarly because they all have long-term capital, because they have their own capital. We see them as the owners, right? Yeah. But at the same time, they're different size and a different investment style, so they can go into very different investment directions, right? Because they have different risk-reward preference, and they also have different liquidity requirements, and then different views on regulatory compliance, right? So if you go into more details, think about it like this. For Web3 crypto assets, right? You can find different ways to get to that exposure if you're an investor, and in terms of what kind of product you pick, it reflects your investment philosophy and your investment style, right? So if we think about the one that's closest to the tokens, like a heart of the mining machine, right? So you can certainly go trade Bitcoin yourself, right? Or you can invest into the crypto mining, right? Or you can invest into gaming tokens directly, things like that, right? And then coming slightly more towards the regulatory market, then you say, instead of buy Bitcoin, I want more regulated context. So then you can invest into Bitcoin ETF, right? Or the ETF of Ethereum and so on and so forth. And then you may also invest in Bitcoin hedge funds. You can have these hedge fund managers that's focused on crypto trading, right? And they may provide some diversification, so that's the difference, right? Because they trade many tokens, right? And you can still get your liquidity pretty easily, right? And then you can go for less liquid, longer term investment like VC investments, right? Either
like startups,
like startups,
or
exactly.
late stage startups, like
like maybe a new chain or maybe a new tech solution in the Web3 environment. Either you invest as a tech investor yourself, or you invest into a VC fund, right? For that kind of investment, you get a diversification and a more tech focused instead of the crypto price focused, right? And finally, you can go for a very special situation, very concentrated bet, like the recent investment by MGX, the subsidiary of the sovereign fund of UAE, to invest $2 billion into Binance. And that's a very concentrated bet. So it depends on your liquidity. You can go for that.
Seems like a good bet. Okay, let's get back to the startups. I want to focus on that because I think that's intriguing. We study startups a lot. We cover startups in theCUBE. Brian Bauman over at NYSE Wired, he's doing a lot of startup coverage, even though they don't long ways go public. He's going way down into the value chain. On those deals, what kind of cash deployments do you see in investments? Because obviously there are startups emerging. I mean, a bunch here on theCUBE. Right. Obviously they're growing, some are growing super fast, some have risk, but they're still executing. What kind of deals are being done right now? Can you share, you don't have to name names, but what check sizes or money pool sizes are being deployed? Tens of millions, hundreds of millions into companies for a crypto. What is a successful crypto, whether it's an early stage deal or growth stage? What are some of the deployment amounts and valuations you're seeing?
Oh, great question. Actually, it's such a wide range, right? So the crypto native startups, I would say they tend to be the companies for angel investors, right? So here, you can start $500,000, a few millions to get it off the ground. And part of the reason that the initial cash check is smaller is because since it's a crypto native, right? So some of the later investment, follow-on investment, could be done in the token format or other.
So smaller rounds, mainly because there might be more optionality.
Correct.
That's
correct.
that thinking.
Yeah, because in a way, right, you could say the Web3 companies have two corporate format instead of one, right?
Yeah.
You know, for a New York Stock Exchange listed company, typically they are corporate. Incorporated somewhere, for example, Delaware, right?
Yeah.
But for a crypto company, you know, they tend to have a corporate format, but they also have a crypto format, which is based on crypto foundation setup, right? So for a investment for investor, right? They can invest from the corporate direction, but a lot of time they may also invest from the crypto direction, and they may have different exit strategy linked to them, right?
Yeah. That's a great, Winston, great commentary. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to go back to what we talked about at the beginning of the interview, your world tour. I know we already talked about Davos, okay, but you had a lot of action going on in Miami.
Yeah, the FI Miami super turn.
What was the conversations? These are like private equity, super conferences. A lot of players there, a lot of big time names. Very relevant conversation around all this asset management, money, deploying capital, getting liquidity. You got the two formats on crypto. What were some of the top conversations? And can you share stories of conversations you've had with people?
Yes. Now, obviously, even if you add in Davos, into this mix, you won't be surprised that a lot of conversation is about U.S., Trump, and then the U.S. public policy, right?
No China discussions?
Much less, right? You know, where people focus on the U.S. market and the Trump, and then the U.S. policies, right? But let's focus on the two.
They look because they have to stare at that because it's dynamic.
It is.
No one knows what's going to happen next, and the markets want certainty.
Yeah.
I mean, they want clarity. Just tell us what the rules of the road are. I can't drive on the left side of the road in America one day and then the right side and then the other. I mean, markets want clarity.
Yes.
So is that why?
Yeah. So if we look at the FI Miami conference February, right? Because Trump himself spoke there personally.
Yeah, I want to hear what happened.
So it was a very big deal. It was a very big deal. And the conference itself is a big deal because it's a conference series mostly sponsored by the Saudi sovereign fund, PIF, Public Investment Funds, right? Which is a $1 trillion investment firm. So PIF sponsored the FI Miami conference series, and this year obviously the biggest one because the president, the current president is speaking there. So the topics are super relevant, you know, for investors' allocation going forward, like a big picture topics, right? You know, first, U.S. market is still the most important market for global investors. You know, even though all the investors are looking for clarity, but no matter what, you know, given the global chaos, the U.S. market is still the largest and the most important market for the investors to pay attention to, right? One way or the other, they have to, right? So all the investors are still studying the market, and for investors like a PIF, they are still increasing their investments in the U.S.
So the money's still coming.
Yeah, exactly.
But the regulations and the policies took front and center.
Precisely.
Because of it will impact decision making, allocations, risk management, upside potential. All that is playing in.
Precisely.
Was there anything that jumped out at you? Anything specifically? What was the high order bit?
Oh,
what was the number top three things that people were talking about relative to those trends?
I see. So related to policies, right? You know, and actually, the three things they are all summarized by one important memo by Trump, but someone no other than Trump, just after the FI Miami. It's called American First Investment Memo. Okay, it's called investment policy, American First Investment Policy. So the top three things. Okay, the number one is about regulatory approval system. And then you would think American First is all about more review. Actually, there's there's also a very positive development. It's called less regulation for investments from allies. So yes, yeah. So in a sense that it wants to engage more companies, more countries as allies to invest more into the U.S.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's number one. So when you think about Trump, it's not all about more restriction or more disruption.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a facilitation as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's number one. Okay, and then the second aspect, obviously, is about it relates to tech investing, right? Because tech investing, especially AI and data related, relates to national security issues, right? So for investors, they want more clarity about can they still invest in it, and can they get the approval if they want to invest into U.S. AI leading companies, right? Now also a very important development from the Trump memo about American First investment policy. The mostly relevant one is called welcome passive investments. Passive investment is welcome everywhere. Essentially, it welcomes investments that are patient, long-term, and not interfering with the management. So these are the capital that the U.S. is really looking for. So I think going forward, we will see a lot more passive investments, foreign capital co-investing with U.S. capital in the U.S., especially for AI, tech, sensitive industries.
So I'm looking at the document here, and the PRC is mentioned a lot. You mentioned before we came on camera, China, Hong Kong,
right?
What's going on in that to the political environment.
Sure.
That was mentioned a lot in the memo, and there was also open investment, fast tracking.
Yes.
These are kind of areas. What is your take on that? Also, you ran the China fund, right? So you have visibility into kind of the dynamics. What is the current situation? Hong Kong, China, United States. Obviously, we know what Trump's saying.
Yes.
But how does that affect the money pool?
It's a huge. The impact is huge. It's probably not surprising to you that when the U.S. market here, we observed the high volatility and even some sell-off on a few dramatic days in the U.S. market. Last couple of weeks, the market saw a huge rally in the Hong Kong market. Because for the US dollar investors, right? Last 12, 24 months, they moved a lot of capital allocation into the US market, right? Because both because the volatility in the China market, but also because of the Magnificent Seven, the AI story in the US, right? So lots of money was in the US last 24 months, and because of the recent tariff talk, all the policy thing, and not to mention, all the fights with the neighbors like Canada. A lot of people feel, right? They maybe.
I mean, Canada was going to pull all their investments, so it's a shock to the system.
That's right. So some of the money moved to other areas, especially like Hong Kong, where the valuation was so low because of the money outflow, right? So now they benefit a little bit of money inflow. But I have to say, things are still evolving. It's so fluid, right? So you will see this money back and forth.
And again, it's only 4 years. He's not going to have another term. Okay, so coming back to the crypto trailblazers. Okay. Political environment, regulatory, big issues.
Right.
Those are threshold issues and all the build out.
Yes.
What is your next book going to be? If you had to start writing your book now, this first one was, not an intro, but it laid out all the facts.
Yes.
We're starting to go next level. Mainstream, financial institutions, entrepreneurship, the classic digitization of things. And assets are digital assets. The word assets is intentional.
Right.
Measuring and instrumenting those assets. Software stacks now going to be developed. AI is coming into the mix. So you have a cultural revolution going on, and that's why I love what we do, because you got the tech money here at the NYSE, so Silicon Valley here, but now culture, impact investment, make the world a better place. Let's not have destruction, let's have peace and humanity. I mean, let's all live better, right?
Right.
So, and decentralization offers the perfect capitalism environment because it's transparent.
That's right, So if I get to write the sequel, right? The last time, the book title is the Blockchain Web 3, building the,
Here, hold on.
the building crypto the cryptocurrency privacy and the security foundation of the metaverse. Essentially, I was talking about blockchain provides this tech backbone for the future metaverse, right? Because it can provide token economics, right, through crypto assets, and then it can it's unique, right? So it just like NFT, the kind of unique digital technology, right? It can protect your privacy, and then the third aspect of blockchain is the ability to keep the data integral, right? Integral. So it's like the integrity of data, right? So that's the security aspect.
So your next one would be about what?
But it was too tech focused, right? Because we didn't see mass scaling, right? So the next one we should expect to see mass scaling of ecosystem applications on the public chains, which engage lots of users. And I use your earlier questions, right? We will see payment rail in place. We will see all the
token economics
there, so people will be incentivized to participate. And then you also have all the personal data, privacy, security protection through blockchain technology, right? So that will be the next book. But most importantly, I think the biggest application will still come from the content aspects. Because the last time was mostly kind of gaming, right? And now probably still be contents. But this time we have AI. So AI may become this new catalyst to empower individual users to generate metaverse contents more quickly, like multimodal, 3D dimension contents, which is very difficult to produce right now, right? But AI may enable the users to create these advanced contents more easily. So we'll see. So essentially, we may see we will see a more active, more data privacy, and a more incentivized data platform, a new version of TikTok.
And I would say that the token economics and the payment rails, as you pointed out, will take early adopters and early pioneers like the gaming industry, seeing that. And the other word that's been kicked around, but not as much frequency, but it's been said multiple times, the ecosystem is a multiplayer game. And they'll mean like as a game. It's an environment. An ecosystem means things are living things evolving.
Different players.
Like species. It's not algae. It's actually now it's like species.
You need all the species.
So the evolution of species or ecosystem partners is a multiplayer environment. And that is something that will sit on top of the L1 chains. So this is where I think this goes. Because once you have those network effects, because they're networks within networks, tokens work great. Okay, Winston, great to have you on. Final question. What are you working on lately? Where are you going to be next? Where's your big next trip? Obviously, you're here all the time at NYSE. Great seeing you here. What's next for you? What's on your mind?
Probably you won't be surprised. My next trip in another week, I fly to Dubai. I will speak at the iCapital conference. I will be on the sovereign fund panel. So probably I will be teamed with a sovereign fund from the local community. Like lots of them at the Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and they are moving into Web3, right? Maybe I didn't mention at the beginning. The recent SEC filing revealed that Mubadala, one of the largest sovereign fund in the world, based in Abu Dhabi, revealed that they last quarter of 2024, they invested several hundred millions into Bitcoin ETF. So I just the beginning to see that area, to see the integration of sovereign funds and the Web3 investments.
Well, when you go there, make sure you tell them about what we're doing with theCUBE, because we will have a CUBE region in Abu Dhabi soon. Great opportunity to create another subnet of our network. But also, if we did have our CUBE coin up and running right now, you would be a very valuable node in the network, because we're expecting you to come back on theCUBE and tell us and report back in. You're like a reporter. You're like a citizen reporter.
You are truly in the Web3 language. I will be honored to be a node of you.
You're a big node in the network, a smart node, as we say. So thanks for coming on. Great to see you.
Thank you.
As always. Again, network effects, you have nodes in the network, all contributing, it's all tokenized. Again, the world is changing and decentralized, and AI is coming together, security, all the infrastructure is rolling out, and it's going to open up the trailblazers to plow the paths for this next generation of innovation and capitalism. Again, all with all new rules, and those rules are better for people. So this is theCUBE, we'll bring you all the action here. Of course, you're watching SiliconANGLE and theCUBE. I'm your host, John Furrier. Thanks for watching.